as she drove into Homs, her hometown in Syria. She couldn't stop the tears from falling and her body from shaking. The familiar neighborhoods had now become ghost towns. Once upon a time, 7 years ago or so, there used to be merchants roaming the streets and shouting at the top of their lungs, "Artishoki, betinjan," artichokes, eggplants, with crowds of people haggling loudly and passionately over prices. There were children in the streets racing on their bicycles, filling the place with their loud and happy spirits, ringing their bells sometimes to warn the crowds of their presence, and sometimes simply to announce their childhood. But today, the silence was deafening. One sign of life were the clothes hanging on clotheslines on empty balconies. حبال الغسيل. She thought of the days when her mother would point to the facing balconies and identify the neater housewife from the messy one by the way the clothes were arranged on the clotheslines. Her mother could even tell which housewife's whites were whiter than the other. There was also strict etiquette to be followed when it came to where to place specific clothing items. Undergarments, especially those that belonged to the female in the house, were to be placed on rows that were not exposed to the street or to facing balconies. You see, in Syria, clotheslines are more than mere strings on which clothes hang. Their culture and tradition, their etiquette. They carry a mother's scent and the aroma of L'Oreal soap. They narrate all kinds of tales about next-door neighbors and make known who's the tidier housewife. They announce the arrival of a baby and disclose whispers of wedding nights. مساء الخير. Good afternoon. My name in Arabic is pronounced Ghada. My identity, I identify myself as a Syrian Canadian. Syrian-Canadian. I locate myself on the hyphen between the Syrian and the Canadian. The truth of the matter is that today there exists a sharp dichotomy between East and West, a binary that has succeeded to divide us into us versus them. Discourses and rhetorics that otherize, rhetoric that bars and bans humans from entering national borders. Noisy discourses that highlight our differences based on what? On ethnicity and religion and color of skin. Mind you, we are all of the same color of hearts, as a Vietnamese Canadian friend once pointed out. Today I hope to highlight the similarities that we share as humans. And I hope to do this by way of stories. And I hope that my stories will allow you to put yourselves in the place of the other, to try to understand and to feel and listen to their hearts. For I believe that stories are keys to opening doors and windows and hearts to an empathetic cultural understanding. Stories that can act as the signal amidst the deafening noise. Stories that can be those synthesizing agents amidst a desensitizing, deafening discourse. Stories that can restore the human to what has been dehumanized. Stories that can act as signal amidst all the noise. And today I wish to be that bridge to Syrian hearts. My bridge is made of voices, voices of hearts and souls, voices that I hope can disrupt all the noise. And I hope that as the empathetic is tapped into, activated, and turned on, I hope that we can better understand a member of the Syrian diaspora or of any other diaspora for that matter, for these are humans who have been yanked and uprooted from their lands, from their homelands, from their places of belonging, and dispersed and scattered in all corners of the world, not by their own choice, but by a sentence pronounced on them by a very harsh and merciless fate. Let's talk about Syria. Syria is the smell of jasmine. Syria smells of jasmine. Did you know that? It really does. I'm not making that up. A jasmine tree to a Syrian heart is like an olive tree to a Palestinian, and a cedar tree to a Lebanese, and a mango tree to my Trinidadian professor's heart, and a sakura tree to a Japanese heart, and a maple tree to a Canadian heart. 2 years ago, here in Calgary, at a local greenhouse, I bought a jasmine tree, a jasmine plant. I bought it so that the aroma of its white flowers can alleviate that longing, burning sensation when I think of my homeland of Syria today. And so that I can return to the days when my father would hold my hands as we walked the streets of Damascus, where the white flowers climbed out of the black railings on Syrian door gates and stroked the passers-by by their charming fragrance. This spring, and for the first time, one of my plants budded white flowers. And the aroma of these white flowers have filled my heart with hope and possibility for my homeland. You see, to me and to many Syrian hearts today, the name Syria embodies the fragrance of jasmine. It embodies the aroma of Arabic coffee mixed with cardamom. It embodies the smell of bread at dawn in the local ovens where fathers would line up in queues and wait to take the hot bread that tasted like heaven to their children. Syria is hbal al-ghasil, clotheslines. And these are the memories that induce the sweetest of images for a Syrian heart. But Syria today is another story. I will read to you about Syria through the eyes of some of the women in my stories. Ward thought of Damascus. But Damascus today was in no mood for lovers. The city's doves stopped cooing, and the white jasmines were dressed in black, mourning the dead. Damascus's children were seeking refuge in all corners of the world, looking for a tent in which to shelter their bare souls and to shelter their shivering hearts. Reem cried her beloved Syria. Reem cried her beloved country. Her country, the mother of all country, was now pleading mercy at the feet of a cold-hearted, callous fate. Syria is a mother who had to witness her sons and daughters aiming weapons at one another in the name of a country and slaughtering and beheading in front of her own eyes and the eyes of the world in the name of a God. And saddest of all is the story of Muhannad. In Arabic means mother. Muhannad is the mother of Muhannad. 5 a.m., the first day of exams at the University of Aleppo. She prepares breakfast for her son Muhannad, who stayed up until 2 a.m. studying to the light of a candle for his architecture exam. The electricity was out yet again. She brews his coffee with extra cardamom and 2 overfull teaspoons of sugar, very sweet, just like him. She prepares mint tea just in case. By 5 a.m., on the table is a bowl of her homemade lebne, condensed yogurt, with olive oil and dry mint sprinkled on top, a plate of cucumbers, the reddest tomatoes she could find, a bowl of green and black olives with lemon and stems of thyme, her hand-made pickled makdous eggplants, and sage bread she baked this week. She doesn't have eggs, but Nabil, the neighbor, will deliver some later. Tomorrow she will scramble them with parsley and onions, just as he likes them, for there's always tomorrow. 5 a.m. It's 5, Habibi, my beloved. Your coffee's ready, and so is your breakfast. She doesn't eat, but she watches his hands as they move from one plate to another to the light of a candle. He holds her 2 hands, kisses them one by one, and says, Yumma Habibti, mother, my beloved, pray for me. I will be back by 5, inshallah, God willing. 1 p.m., 2 explosions. 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Muhannad praying to an Allah deafened by the noise of praying mothers. 3 p.m. banging at the door. Nabil, the neighbor, weeping, wailing, howling, pulling her hair, screaming, they bombed the University of Aleppo. Muhannad, Muhannad, Muhannad. 5 p.m. Muhannad. 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 a.m., 1, 2, 3, 4 a.m., waiting. 5 a.m., breakfast is ready, a plate of scrambled eggs. This happens to be the fate of many mothers in Syria. But I, too, like every Syrian heart I know, I believe in hope. Amal is the Arabic word for hope. Amal. And I also believe that with the conscience of all the red hearts, that Syrian hearts will sing again, for darkness also has an end, and after each night there is daylight. And so on that hopeful note, I will close with the words of my Syrian friend who wrote her words while living in Syria, Dr. Najat Abdus Samad. I hope her voice is a signal amidst all the noise that we hear on Syria today. And she says, from her heart to yours, وَإِنْ أَلَمَّ بِي ضَعْفٌ وإن ألم بضعف أعصب قلبي بصبر النساء السوريات على المحن. When I am overcome with weakness, I bandage my heart with a Syrian woman's patience in adversity. I bandage it with the upright posture of a Syrian woman who is not bent by bereavement, poverty, or displacement. I bandage it with the steadiness of a child's footsteps in a refugee camp, a child wearing a small black shoe on one foot and a large blue sandal on another, singing and wandering off to butterflies and skies seen only by his tiny eyes. I bandage it with December's frozen tree roots, trees that have sworn to blossom in March or April. I bandage it with the voice of reason that was not affected by a proximate desolation. I bandage it with the conscience of the living, with the conscience of all the red human hearts, and with the image of a homeland envisioned by the eyes of the poor. Thank you.